best time to start planning for college is today, wherever you're at. Do not wait. Financially, the FAFSA looks at the second semester of your sophomore year and the first semester of your junior year in high school. That means if you're waiting until their junior or senior year to have this conversation, you just missed out on 50% of scholarships you could have had just
Big.
by waiting.
Hey, Mama. Welcome to the Working Moms Playbook, the go-to podcast for moms balancing careers and babies. I'm your host, Antonia DePace, former editor, current marketing maven, and mom of one. Each week, we're breaking down the systems, mindsets, and support every working mom needs to thrive, whether it be at work, at home, or everywhere in between. So let's get into it. All right, everybody, welcome to the Working Moms Playbook. This episode today is with Shellee Howard, and she is the founder and CEO of College Ready, as well as a 2026 Global Educational Consultant of the Year, Global College Admissions Strategist, and a two-time best-selling author. You do so much. You are also a proud UC graduate and a mom of 4 college graduates, which a little bird told me that they all finished debt-free, including your son, who is a Harvard pre-med grad. Amazing. You also specialize in helping busy parents get their teens in top choice colleges, earn large scholarships, and graduate with minimal debt. Shellee, welcome to the Working Moms Playbook. I'm so excited to have you on.
It is my pleasure, and I look forward to giving your moms massive value. Take away the overwhelm and get to clarity.
I wish that I had somebody like you when I was applying for college.
I hear that
Because
every day.
it's a wild and overwhelming ride, not only for the students who are applying for college, but also for the parents. And my son's only like 20 months old, so of course I'm not there yet. But I don't think too early is ever too early, in my opinion. At least just to like put some seeds out there. So it's really exciting to have you on. I would love by having you start out by just telling us more about College Ready so our listeners can have a better idea of what you do.
Well, thank you so much. College Ready started as a mom on a mission. So, for all of you ladies out there who are listening, I've honestly walked in your shoes. And that's why I love doing these podcast guests. College Ready was actually established 18 application seasons ago. So, 18 years
Oh.
I've been helping students navigate this process. And yes, it does make me feel a little old when you look at it like that. It all
Mhm.
started honestly with my firstborn. So if any of you are working with your firstborn and they are either driving the process like what next, what next, what next, or dragging their feet going, why are we starting this now? I heard it all. And so I want to help address all of that. But College Ready was started when my son came home from 8th grade and he says, Mom, I know exactly where I want to go to college and exactly what I want to major in. Will you help me? And
Yeah.
that's when I was like, oh, of course, honey, sure. That's what moms do. And I said, so what are you thinking? He says, well, I want to be a brain surgeon and go to one of those Ivy things. And I was like, oh, just that. That's all. And the funny part is we do not to this day, other than him, have anybody in the medical field. It's not like I could call a parent or a sister or anything and say, hey, how did you do this? So when he asked me to help him, I took it to heart. And I said, of course, I'll help you. And that is how College Ready got started. The story goes on. I took him to his high school counselor going into 9th grade, and I said, you tell her what you told me because I don't want to be that parent. And he very confidently says, I want to be a brain surgeon. I want to go to one of those Ivy schools. And she said, why would you waste your time or money? They don't make money anymore. And the look on my son's face it was heartbreaking, to be honest, because somebody had shot down his dream before he ever got to step into his dream. And, I'm not downplaying any college admissions person, but they are dealing with truancy and kids who are struggling with mental illness, and their plates are very full. And so she probably didn't mean to hurt him, but it did. And so he looked at me and he looked at her and he goes, I guess we're done. And he says, Mom, it's up to us.
Yep.
So as we're walking out, he's like, now what? And as any good mom who's a little crazy would do, is I went back to school and got my master's degree. And then I went back to school again and became a certified independent college consultant and financial strategist. And then I started touring 25 colleges a semester, and that young man listened and did what I suggested for 4 years. And when he graduated, he applied to 12 schools, got accepted to 11, had 7 full ride offers, full ride to USC, and Harvard matched it. So College Ready was launched by a mother and her son. And I really didn't think of it as my long-term commitment or goal until everybody came to me and said, I want that for my child. Can you help me? I then did it for my second, whose dream was a big football sorority school. And so off she went to University of Alabama, full ride. My third, my stepson wanted to stay closer to home, and so we found him a great fit where he graduated in 3 years debt-free at San Francisco State. And then my fourth says, well, he did Harvard, she did Alabama, he did a local school. I want to go to the Czech Republic of Prague. Will you help me? And of course, I figured and navigated that process. She
Mhm.
did go to AAU, American Anglo University in the Czech Republic of Prague, graduated in 3 years for 27,000 total US, has a dual US and European degree, and no debt. So when I say I'm a parent who actually has done this multiple times, I've done it with well over 2,000 other people's children, but more importantly, I navigated on my own, and that is what drove College Ready to its beginning.
I just have to say, your kids are so lucky. Like that, those are all such amazing stories. And to not only graduate debt free, but to also be able to go to the college of your dreams to, eventually figure out what career path you're going to take. That is a huge and pivotal part of any young person's life. Like I still remember applying to colleges, and I still remember the anxiety that came with the acceptance letters or the rejection letters, because when I was applying, they still sent them in paper form. I don't think they do that anymore.
The Ivies still do, but it's not common.
Okay.
Yes.
So your kids are so incredibly lucky, and because that process can be so stressful, it can be so intimidating, not only for the kids, but also for the parents. Um, as a parent now, what I wasn't thinking about prior, because, when my mom used to say, you should be doing this, you should be doing that, I used to say, Mom, I'm not going to college for like another 4 years. This doesn't matter. Like, let me go do what I want to do. Like, it felt almost detached in a way, right? Because you're not thinking about that.
Yeah.
But for parents, at what age, since the child is not necessarily thinking about this, right? But at what age should the parents realistically start thinking about college planning? And at that age, what does planning even really mean at that stage?
It's one of my favorite things to talk about because I've had women call me when they get pregnant and they're like, I want to plan. And
Yeah.
I embrace that, like, good for them to wanna start. I've had people come to me when their child's in elementary school saying, "I have a gifted and talented student. How do I
Mhm.
nurture them? How do I help them to continue on?" And
Mhm.
then I've had families who've come to me their senior year and say, "I did it all wrong. I've messed up my child's future. Can you save us?" So I want to honor wherever you're at. What I will
Mhm.
tell you is the best time to start this process is when your child is learning to read.
Okay.
Teaching them the gift of loving to read is massive because the SAT, the ACT, the AP exams, they're all going to check vocabulary. So if
Mhm.
your child struggles or dislikes reading, their vocabulary is going to struggle. Now, are we talking about college? No, we're talking about helping them plan for their future. From
Mhm.
there, it's taking them to you go to art museums, you go to science, museums. You can walk on any college in the world and just explore like you would any of those opportunities and start
Mhm.
having conversations about the football, the basketball, the theater. You can talk about picking, something you want to learn about. What does that feel like? I remember taking my son to Harvard in fifth grade, and we were visiting family in Boston. And I said, let's just stop at MIT and Harvard. I don't know if my kids are going to be even smart enough, but, it's a great place to kind of put the carrot out there. And when
Yeah.
my son walked into the common area where they ate, it was like walking into Hogwarts, and he was a huge Harry Potter fan, and he's
Mhm.
like, "Mom, this is amazing." And
Oh.
all of the sudden, college turned into his dream, not my dream. And now it wasn't a battle that I had to say, "We need to do this." I would just say, "Remember that place that you wanted to go and eat?" And he'd be like, "Oh, yeah, yeah, I wanna go there." It's a gentle way. It's not, "What do you wanna do?" when they're in 5th grade. It's really, "Let's talk about what your future holds." When it gets real is in middle school, because those classes are setting them up for their high school classes. So if your child is taking the easiest classes in middle school, they're now setting them up for the easiest classes in high school, which is gonna set them up for their local community college. So that's when it gets real. We're still not slamming them, pick a college, pick a major, but we're helping them to lean into what type of community service can you be doing right now. They can start applying to college scholarships in middle school. So if money is important to your family and scholarships are important, don't wait. They can have 4 years of applying versus waking up their senior year and going, oh, maybe I should care about
Mhm.
money. So it's really thinking about college planning differently. Most college
Mhm.
admissions people talk about what school do you want to go to, and that's where they start. We start differently at College Ready. College Ready, we start with who is your student, who is your child, what are their gifts and talents, their strengths, what are their opportunities, and how do we prove to college that they will be successful? But bottom line is,
Okay.
college not the end game. College is the stepping stone to their future. So we do things to set them up for a successful future, not just for college.
Yeah, and I love that because it's college is like you said, it's just that stepping stone, and there are so many kids who end up going to college that either one is not right for them, or B, for a variety of reasons, or B, they go and they just decide it's not what they want to do because of whatever reason. And I've, sometimes there are cases, right? But like I do feel like a lot of that can be prevented with early research and earlier guidance. So then that way you're not wasting that time for them. Like they could be spending that time more preciously trying to figure out what they want to do so that it sets them up in a place where they can be confident in the near future and where they are in life.
So
What would
true.
you say for parents? So you hear college planning and it's like, oh God, right? And you just said like there's steps you can take. So it's not you wake up, it's the first day of senior year of college, of senior year of high school, and you're like rush, 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 right? There's obviously ways to get ahead of that by planning ahead. But what would you say is the first myth or misconception you wish you could clear up immediately when it comes to what parents might think when they hear the word college planning?
So, I mean, there's two. There's an academic one and there's a financial one. The academic one is I got myself through college planning. I can do this for you. Well, my kids call it the cave women days, and that nothing is similar. Right? I remember I typed on a typewriter with whiteout, and I put a stamp on it, and I sent it in, and that
Mhm.
was it. It's nothing like it used to be. So the biggest
Mhm.
misconception is that you can do this without really diving in deep on how much it's changed. So that would be the academic. The financial misconception is we make too much money and we won't earn any scholarships. That is the biggest lie families tell themselves. And they throw their hands up and they just say, I'm not going to get anything, so forget it.
Mhm.
All 4 of my kids, and I am just like every one of you. I do not
Mhm.
wanna write a full check for full tuition, and I make too much money to get need-based. So it's that middle sweet spot. That is where all the money is, and so please, parents, don't believe for a minute that you won't have the opportunity to earn free money. So 2 different sides to it, getting in and paying for it.
Yeah, and this might be a silly question, but there are different scholarships that don't just require you to write an essay, right? It doesn't always have to be so black and white as what a lot of us experienced in the past, correct?
And not only that, but there are so many scholarships. There's 10 colleges that are tuition free. Nobody talks about those because the student has to work at the college to get the free tuition. But when it
Mm,
comes to thinking about the money, there's buckets. There's the merit-based money, which the student earns by doing a really great job academically, right? Socially.
mhm.
And then there's the independent money, and that is the scholarships that you can apply to. My son won the Coca-Cola scholarship. It was $25,000 a year. He did have to write an essay, but it was an essay about what he wanted for his future. And if you're not willing to do that, they're not going to throw $25,000 at you. So
Yeah.
you don't have to have a sad story. You don't have to have an awful upbringing to win these. You have to be willing to put in the effort, right? There's a difference between an internship that you're paid and an internship that you're not paid.
Mhm.
You have to earn it. And so I want families to understand there's $10,000 if you're a vegan. All you have to do is be a vegan. I could be a vegan
Wow.
for $10,000. So just
Yeah.
know there's a lot of opportunity, and it may be the color of your child's eyes, or it may be what they wanna do, or a first gen, like, there's so much money. It's really important that families not just shoo that away because they don't know it to be true.
Now, you, of course, help those families that come to you. You help them to find these scholarships, but is there a universal place or a method that you recommend using when it comes to actually locating these scholarships that they can apply to?
And I would love to give you that. Here's the challenge. Every
Mhm.
child is uniquely different. So my firstborn, my second, my third, my fourth, the they would not have applied to the same scholarships because they were nothing alike. So the
Right.
most important thing you can do, parents, is figure out what is your child's standout strategy? What is uniquely them? Okay.
Mhm.
I had one student who was a incredible magician. He was
Wow.
passionate about magic, and he ended up at UCLA, and he got the most amazing independent scholarship from the Magicians Foundation.
Wait, that is
Who would
so
have
cool.
thought, right? Who would have thought?
Yeah.
So the problem is there's not a one place to go to. It
Mhm.
really has to come down to what makes your child unique, finding the scholarship that's willing to give the money for that uniqueness,
Mhm.
and then going for it. So to your point is we help our students stand out, figure out who they are, what matters, their gifts, their talents, their advocacy, and then we help match them to scholarships. So your
Gotcha.
listeners can do the same, but just don't apply it to just any random scholarship because it's actually dangerous. If you
Mm.
tell your child, just go to apply to whatever scholarships you find online, they're a bait and switch. They're going to ask, do your parents own a home? Do your parents own a car?
Mm.
And the next thing you know, you're getting spammed by all of these places who want you to apply for this or spend your money on that. So it
Mhm.
really has to be more of a strategy than
Mhm.
just throwing darts at a dartboard.
Yeah. It sounds like a good first step would be sitting down with your child and really generating that that avatar for that kid, and then kind of going based off of that. So then you're very focused on the talents that not only you think they have, but also what they think they have, and then doing your research based on that. Would that be correct?
Absolutely. And wouldn't that be helpful? Parents, if you have a teenager, I'd like you today when you pick them up from school, ask them, "Who are you?" and see what their reaction is. They're going to look at you and be like, "What do you mean? You know who I am. I am. I'm your child." And then lean in, "But really, who are you?" They
Mhm.
don't know because they follow everybody's best day on social media. They don't really understand what makes them so special. You do, you're their parents. If you're not telling them and they're believing it, they don't know. And so it goes deeper into helping them figure out who they are so they can pick the right major, the right college, the right scholarships. That's as far back. And you can start when they're in middle school, helping them to recognize, wow, you did a great job of bringing all of these people together to do this thing. You're a
Mhm.
natural connector.
Mm.
We can foster that as parents right now without always telling them how amazing we are. But a lot of times I'll have my students say, I'll ask them, what would your grandparents tell me about you? And they get embarrassed. They're like, oh, it's so embarrassing. And I'm like, but that's what colleges want to know.
Yeah. It makes sense. And in this world, it's so easy to get swept up in being like everybody else that you can almost forget what actually makes you different from everybody
Right.
else. Mm.
Exactly. And that's where the scholarships are. They're not with the masses. They're with how are you connected to the money that want to give you?
Mhm. Makes sense. So then we just kind of talked about a first step a little bit, right? Like sitting down, figuring out what makes your child stand out from both points of view. So we can include that in this next question. But what would you say are the first 5 steps you would tell parents to make when it comes to early planning, whether that be middle school or that learning to read age that you mentioned earlier?
Sure. Step one, put your cell phone in your magazine and don't let your kids see that you spend hours and hours on your cell phone. They're going to do exactly what you do. But you've already been educated. You have your intellectual curiosity. You have all of that time you got to play outside, right? So it's a generational shift. So I tell families, hide that cell phone in a book, hide it in a magazine, and let your kids see you love to read. That's number one. Number two is teach them early that they are unique, they have strengths, things come easier for each of them, and help them to see an example. If you just tell them, "Oh, you're such a good leader," that's mom or dad saying another thing. But if you say, "I saw you do this, it was amazing to watch how others reacted to you." Now it's not your opinion, it's a proof of concept. They absorb it so much better. Once your child is showing intellectual curiosity about their future, I remember my son who is now a doctor, he was fascinated with the toll booth where people drove and threw money at somebody. He's like, "That's the job I want." And once we started helping him understand that, yes, that would be lovely, but that's not quite the job that you see, it was a great opportunity to see why. Why would you want to be in that toll
Mm.
booth? And it was
Mhm.
starting to have those curious questions about he wanted money that he didn't have to work very hard for. That was the go-to. And so we had to really lean into, is money important to you? And why money is important to you? And financial literacy. Do you see? So these little things can turn out to these beautiful conversations. Here's where it gets real. Your child will be labeled as gifted and talented and need based or ADHD or need deficit, whatever they're going to label your child. Try
Mhm.
really hard not to stand behind that label, but to really lean into you're this, but we're working towards this. And that
Mhm.
is going to be huge for their confidence because once the schools label them, they're going to sit in that and they're going to be okay because everybody in the schools are going to be using that term. At
Mhm.
home, be counter that, helping them to see those things that they are not. All right. So
Mhm.
it's all about building their confidence, building them up. So now, when a teacher or a admin says, "Do you want AP English or do you want regular English?" You want your child to say, "I want to be challenged. I
Mhm.
can do that work. I've seen it. I'm successful." Versus the unconfident child who says, I think I just want to get an easy A. The
Mhm.
easy A is not going to get them into the dream college when they wake up their senior year and be like, uh-oh, now
Mhm.
I took the easy path. I can't get to where I want to go.
Right.
Those are
It's
things,
yeah.
right? You can't undo.
Mhm. Yep. Yeah, you definitely can do that. And it's, yeah, I think you bring up a very good point about how schools are very quick to label. And I know it's partially because they want to curate different learning experiences based on where kids are at. But I immediately, as soon as you said that, I thought about myself, honestly, because I remember I was very lucky enough to go to Quaker schools my entire life. My mom was a teacher. And so I would go to the school that she taught at. And I love Quaker schools. I love their curriculum. I love the small classrooms. I say that a lot of who I am today is because of their principles. But I do remember very blatantly in lower school slash elementary school in regular world terms, in Quaker school terms, it's lower school. But they labeled me as like, I forget like the actual term, but basically I needed more help with reading, right? Um, which is funny because now today I'm a journalist. I was the editor in chief of a magazine and all I did was read and write. But if I had simply just listened to that term and my parents didn't actively build my confidence with reading and build my confidence with writing versus letting the school just like say what I was and kind of continuing to dig that in, I probably wouldn't have taken that career path at all. And I mean, God only knows where I would have been because I quite frankly am just very bad at math. So that other side of things is not gonna that was never a career path for me. But it's I think it's a good point that you bring up because as a parent, it's not always your job to just you obviously want to listen to what the school says, but you don't want it to permanently label your child for the rest of their lives to a point where they just think that they're permanently not good at that, right? Because then it makes that subject not fun. And then that's the difference between challenging yourself with the AP course or taking the easy way out, in my opinion.
Right. And it's a challenge because there are some students who need an IEP. They really
Mhm.
do have a learning disability and they
Mhm.
do need to even the playing field. They need the extra time on the test. So on the other hand, we do want to be involved in making sure that our child we're the advocate, right?
Mhm.
When you say what is our role, we're the advocate. And as college ready, we're the advocate for that child. We're building their
Mhm.
4-year academic plan. We're helping them to see if they pick this class, they're not going to that dream school.
Mhm.
And they're like, "Well,
Mhm.
well, what?" And I can honestly tell them without having to make them feel bad. I'm like, "This is a choice you get to make. It doesn't bother me whatsoever what you
Mhm.
choose, but I
Mhm.
isn't it a good idea to know that if you choose wrong, you're going to hurt your chances?"
Yeah, for
Huge.
sure. It is. What would you say, because I don't think we just got through those 5 steps, what would you say are those other steps to take as a parent when it comes to early planning?
So, as the advocate, you want to make sure that your child is at the right school for
Mm,
them.
okay,
Having 4 of my own, one went to Montessori, one went to a farm kind of preschool with goats
that's
and stuff.
cool.
Right? I mean,
Yeah.
so they all went to unique even preschools because I tuned in and I listened to what each of them wanted and needed. So I'm
Mhm.
starting kind of early on. Once you are in tune with your child, the next step is, you don't start planning for retirement when you're 70. So starting to plan for college, even now, financially, is brilliant. Be careful to do what the first person tells you. A 529 plan can be a great plan and it can be a devastating plan. So be very careful on how and who you listen to. That's really important. So, that financial strategy, if you start early and put it in the right vehicles, genius. If you put it in the wrong, it can hurt you immensely. So understand the financial uh, part of it. Then start community service now. I don't care how old that little person is, put them in a backpack, hold their hand, start serving now because one, it's good for them to see other people who are more needy than they are. It helps with humility, it helps with their growth. But more importantly, even than that, is you start to see their gifts and their talents rise up. You start to see, are they an introvert or an extrovert? Do they get energy from people or not? So, yes, you're doing something nice for another human being, but really, you're really seeing, wow, my child is gifted in this area. And then you can nurture it at a very young age. That's what I did. And I ended up with a orthopedic surgeon, a RN, and a PA. Not that those are the best jobs ever, but I got to see early on that they love to serve their community. My fourth
Mhm.
wanted nothing to do with it. And going into business and she would rather write a check than give her time. And that's
Mhm.
fine. But
Mhm.
serving early on was able to show us early on how to plan for that. Extracurriculars. When your child is showing gifted and talented in a sport, in an instrument, in the theater,
Mhm.
be very mindful that is that for now or is that for forever? I've seen
Mhm.
many families go all in on one thing with the private coaches, the da 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 da, and the child pivots and the parents are devastated. So be
Mm.
mindful when and what that looks like
Mhm.
because they're so young. And it's fine to let them up until middle school, let them try this, try that. But when they hit middle school, they need to be clear of their top two or three things.
Mhm.
Colleges are not looking for people who show up, try it, and drop out. That is
Mhm.
not a good indicator for future success. So by middle school, solidify what that looks like. The best time to start planning for college is today, wherever you're at. Do not wait. Financially, the FAFSA looks at the second semester of your sophomore year and the first semester of your junior year in high school. Okay. That means if you're waiting until their junior or senior year to have this conversation, you just missed out on 50% of scholarships you could have had just
Big.
by waiting. So if finances at all are a concern of yours, you need to get your financial house in order by the first semester of the junior year at the latest. Okay. So I'm giving you kind of like these milestones of
Yeah.
what do I need to know?
Mhm.
Really, the day your child promotes from 8th grade is the most important time for your child for their future. Colleges start checking the boxes the day they promote from 8th grade. Everything they've done before 8th grade, you can talk about it in an essay, but it's not quite as impactful. They
Mhm.
want to see the here and the now. Up until that point, it's setting themselves up for success. The day they promote from 8th grade, it's time to start getting ready for your college application.
Okay. Which is, like, so much earlier than I think so many people think of. I mean, I I don't think my college conversations really started until sophomore year, maybe, because that's when
And
we started to do some college trips and stuff, and even that felt early to a lot of parents and to a lot of, like, my fellow friends, and it's true. Like, you really can't be too early because at one point, like junior, senior year, it's like it's deciding time. Like, it's the fourth quarter. Like, you've got to make your final moves and your final plans. And that's not how a lot of people see it. You briefly talked about like the 529s for a popular saving option. Do you often help parents navigate which saving options are best for them?
So I am not a financial advisor, and I
Mm-hmm.
always start with that. So I want families to understand I look at financials through the college admissions lens.
Mm-hmm.
My mission, my personal mission is to help 1.2 million families get into college and graduate without debt. That's my mission. That's why I do these podcasts. What I want families to understand is your financials are just as unique as your child's gifts and talents. So
Okay.
you need to approach it as such. The FAFSA is the starting point for all families to get any kind of support. So you want to know what is on the FAFSA and what is not on the FAFSA. That is
Okay.
what I advise. So I am all about here's the knowledge you need to make the wise decisions. I have strategic partners who are in the world of finance and all of the wealth and all of that that I can definitely point you to, but I will not sell you a thing and I will not move your money, which makes me a really great strategic partner because
Yeah.
I only care about what's the best option for your child and their future not going into debt.
Mm-hmm.
So, yes, I can tell you based on what I know of your finances, I have what's called a student aid index calculator where we
Okay.
put in your five most financially important things and it pops out. This is how much this school thinks you will need to pay. And I've never had one family go, oh, that's such great news. No, it doesn't work out that way. We need to know that early on so we can make sure that what the FAFSA doesn't look at, you
Mm-hmm.
don't have, right? So it's
Right.
awareness and
Mm-hmm.
then it's strategic choices. And then it comes down to the knowledge and what you do with the knowledge. So my job as the founder of College Ready is to help your family know way before you pick your college list because we don't want your child to spend all the time applying to a stingy school that you can't afford.
Right.
Yay, Susie got in. Sorry, Susie, you're not going anywhere. That
Yeah.
is so painful. We don't want that to happen. So we
Mm-hmm.
reverse engineer it and we talk about can your family do this or should we not even have her apply there? That way
Right.
it doesn't put you in a really awkward position or your child heartbroken.
Yeah. Talk about mom guilt.
Mm.
That's or parent guilt, I guess, but that is, it's setting you up for a lot of guilt over something that could be completely avoided, and it might not even be the right school for your kid from the get for other reasons too, and that can be heartbreaking. What would you say, because there are parents out there who are on top of it, right? Like they're planning already. They're looking at their kids' specialties, what they're really good at, what they're not really good at, promoting them. But even then, I feel like there's always room for error. So, what would you say for those parents? What are some well meaning decisions that they're making that are actually ending up costing them more money later?
There's a lot of them. I'll give you the big one.
Okay.
Um, Googling it is the fastest way to make the fast mistakes. Remember, Google is the sum of all, right?
Hmm.
It is not the answer. I spent 33 hours a week doing this with my firstborn. So if you're willing to do that, you will get to some answers. But if you're
Hmm.
doing a quick search, be very careful. Number two, if you have a financial advisor that your parents worked with or their parents worked with, make sure that they're staying up to date on the newest, latest trends of college
Mm,
admissions and financial support. Not saying they're not great. I just want you to know that not all financial advisors are created equal. They may be better at retirement, right?
right.
Or stocks or something like this. So just be mindful
Hmm.
of who are you receiving the advice from? The next
Mhm.
thing is not all college admissions people are the same. Most people in my industry, most college consultants are, what school do you want to go to? And let's see what we can do to get them there. That is a very archaic way of doing it. And the chance of you going into massive debt has increased substantially by doing it that way. It's like your kid is good at Legos, go to MIT engineering, good luck. Well, can your family even afford MIT? Does your high school counselor know how much money you do or you don't have? Do they
Mhm.
care? They don't
Mhm.
get evaluated on that, right?
Mhm.
Be careful who you're asking for the knowledge. That is the most critical thing I can share academically, socially, and financially. Finally, athletically, I played softball for the USA. My first two were scholar athletes. We help
I played
scholar
softball too. We're fellow softball players.
I love it. I love it. And so what I want you to understand is 1.6% will get a full ride to college. 0.6%. Academically, every one of my students received at least 20,000, every one of them, minimum 20,000 in scholarships by working with College Ready, and we had so many full ride offers. So if you're saying, I only have this bucket of money, it's going to go either to their pitching coach or to their tutor, give it to the tutor all day
Okay.
long.
Yeah.
I know it feels really great to have that athlete. I was that. I remember my parents, they've spent a lot of money on perfecting my throw down to second base. I remember it. But honestly, it's super important that you know the statistics of a scholar athlete. I never would tell a child, don't do it. And we use it to
Mhm.
help them get in.
Mhm.
But even scholar athletes have to have a minimum GPA to be on a team, or they lower the whole team GPA. So even the
Hmm.
athletes have to have a strong GPA. So parents, that's how you have to prioritize what's coming at you.
I'm glad we started to go into the athletic portion because I do feel like this is something important to highlight and maybe you can give advice on how to navigate it. But in this day and age, I feel like there is oftentimes a very fine line between supporting passionate interests and then like forcing interests that look better for college. But then there's also a fine line between supporting these extracurriculars that your child really loves, but then helping them to pick a college that is not just about that extracurricular, right? And I use the example of when I went to school, there were other students who were accepting, high scholarships, whether they be partial or full, for D1 schools in sports and athletics. But they didn't have the major that they wanted to actually study. But because there was such an emphasis on affording college and also the love of the sport, it then put them in a predicament because they accepted they accepted this and they went to this school but then they weren't able to actually study what they wanted to study. So how would you tell parents to navigate that predicament so that they don't get stuck in that kind of situation?
So what's really important to remember is, what do we want for our child? We want them to launch into a successful adult, not come back home, sleep on the couch, or, eat your food forever. We want them to start a family. We want them to be successful and confident and be self-supportive. So I think sometimes we lose sight of that as parents, and we get caught up in wanting them to be the best, or wanting them to be the lead in the play, or to be in the Philharmonic, or whatever that
Mhm.
big dream is.
Mhm.
And then sometimes parents are like, I wish I had that opportunity. And so they're trying
Right.
really nicely to give their child the opportunity they didn't have. So it can come from so many different ways. And I know the parent's heart is genuine and they're doing it, they think, for the right reasons. I've been
Mhm.
a parent. I know I've been caught up many a time in that.
Yeah.
And what I want to really emphasize is, even as adults, we have a career that pays the bill, and we have passions that we do to find joy. They don't have to be the same thing. It
Mhm.
is okay, right, that they have a career in engineering to pay the bills, and then they are, doing 3D printing because they find so much excitement in it, right? So it's okay that there's these elements of each person. The most important thing I can say is when we bring on a student, the first thing we do is we put them through a series of high school assessments or middle school assessments, not academic assessments. We have plenty of those, but
Mhm.
career assessments and personality assessments.
Okay.
We want to know what this unique individual finds important. I have some students who really could care less about how much money their career makes until I tell them that they will no longer be living in their parents' house and their parents will not be putting gas in the car or feeding them. Oh, well, wait a minute. Now I do care.
Yep.
So it's this financial literacy piece that we're not talking about in high school and
Mhm.
maybe not at home because as parents we want them to know we've got it, don't worry about it. It's not for them to worry, but it's almost doing them a disservice because they're picking things based on their current life. And if their current life is you're buying the groceries they want and providing the food and the vehicle and da 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 da, they're not really thinking about, well, wait, I do need to care about money. So
Right.
it's a mindset shift or not even a shift. It's adding that to helping them make wise decisions. I'll tell you just a brief quick example. Had a dad call me. He says, "Hey, we have an appointment coming up. I need you to talk my daughter into not wanting to be a botanist." And to be honest, I had to look up, okay, what's a botanist? Okay, they plant plants. And I'm
Mhm.
like, "Well, why?" And he says, "I'm terrified she won't make enough money to live on her own, and she just doesn't know this." And I'm like, "Well, I'm not really gonna talk her out of it, but let's see why she wants to do it."
Mhm.
Long story short, we're in the meeting. She tells me she wants to go into botany. I'm like, "That's so cool. I have a brown thumb. Why? Why is that something you wanna do?" She
Mhm.
says, "Well, I wanna save our environment." I'm
Oh.
like, "Oh, wow." So wait,
Mhm.
you don't really it's not the planting you like, it's plants will save our Yes, I really don't care about dirt and all that. I wanna save our environment. Wow. Just asking why was the
Mhm.
huge difference that dads couldn't sign up faster for our program because he's like, "I obviously just don't even know what to ask my child. It was a battle that we were having, and I just didn't even listen." And now that child is doing her environmental studies and going into law. Like, wow, what a
Wow.
difference. So
That is
these are the
such a
things,
good example.
right? These are the things
Yeah.
we just don't know as parents because that's not what we do. It's like me going and building a structure. I'm not going to do it well. So, my gift to your listeners are a few. If they go to collegereadyplan.info, so it's collegereadyplan.info, they will get 30 minutes to find out how college ready their child is and see what their dream college is looking for. So, it's a win win for them. And then I also have two of my best-selling books on Amazon right now for 99 cents for your listener. The first one is How to Send Your Student to College Without Losing Your Mind or Your Money. The second one is College Admissions Plan Simplified. And so those are my two gifts that I would love each of your listeners to have. If they want to do it on their own, I have a ton of free resources on collegereadyplan.com.
Thank you so much for making it to the end of this episode of the Working Moms Playbook. And also, thank you so much for sharing this episode with any and every working mom who might benefit. Also, thank you for subscribing. It means so much to be able to continue to grow this village of working moms in a world where our villages can feel fairly small. Keep an eye out for next week's episode, always debuting on a Wednesday, and I can't wait to see you there.